Very good. So welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining me on my webinar on sustainability and responsible tourism in Africa. Let me begin by saying that we as travelers and our clients who are blessed with the means and leisure time to be tourists do need to make better decisions when traveling. And we should ask ourselves, how can I make my adventure benefit the individuals, communities, cultures, and natural spaces that I encounter? This awareness has become even more obvious through the impact on nature as a result of the global lockdown. I'm sure you've all noticed that. Nature, silence, and solitude are the last remaining luxuries in travel. And to escape the madding crowd, to find balance in nature, to de-stress, to soak up the joys of new places, and to share beauty and wonder with our loved ones is what it's all about. So, we must become a sustainably connected world, or else we will all fall down like Humpty Dumpty. So when we get back to traveling, and we will, we have to do it right. So Giltedge, as many of you know, is headquartered in the beautiful city in Cape Town, and I'm the General Manager of our U.S. office here in Austin, Texas. And this is our commitment to sustainability. So our safari experience is underpinned by a deep commitment to communities, wildlife, and the delicate balance between the two. And in these challenging times as a global community, Giltedge stands steadfast by dedication to this mission. We call it responsible tourism, and a term that I coined as well is travel with a purpose. We are also a member of Fair Trade, which is an organization that promotes best practice responsible tourism in Africa. And we've been a member since 2018, and we're very proud of our commitment. Right, so this picture, which I really like, is a bridge, and I put it in as a symbol of connecting tourists with the wildlife and the surrounding communities. Our programs. I am the philanthropy specialist for Giltedge Africa, and I'm proud that the projects that we support and the programs that we offer to our clients are ethical, authentic, and sustainable. And also, simply by traveling with Giltedge, you or your clients will help us in financially supporting these programs that I'm going to share with you. However, you can also get actively involved. That's the travel with a purpose. And I will recommend projects matched to your clients' interests, their passions, or their skills. And so they will have the luxury safari that they've always dreamed of, but at the same time, they can return home knowing that they've made a positive contribution. So I'm going to go through a couple of the programs. One of them is this Westlake United Church Trust. It's a school that is very close to Giltedge's headquarters in South Africa. And we support the school, which is called Emmanuel Educare. And it serves about 180 impoverished, vulnerable children, ages 3 to 6. And we also assist them with giving them nutritious meals and snacks every day. And based on this great early education, many children have gone on to excel both academically and other fields such as dance. And here's a lovely photograph showing the kids, the teachers, and the dance graduation ceremony over there. Too beautiful. Another program that we support is called the Community Conservation Fund. And the Community Conservation Fund supports employing staff and guides from the local communities around the safari lodges all over Africa, and helps to instill in them a sense of pride in conservation, because it's all about community upliftment, moving people out of poverty, so actually they won't need to poach. They won't need to poach to support themselves and their families. And this is very, very key, very, very important. CCFA operates in Rwanda, South Africa, Namibia, Uganda, and Kenya. Many of you may know that poaching is a huge problem at the moment, And it's just very sad to say, I'll just make this as a comment, that many of the rhinos, more than normal, people are in lockdown. Not the tourists and the amount of people out there to keep an eye on them. So it's terribly sad, and then you'll see why and how important this organization is. But I was just showing you a photograph here of the locals. This is in Kenya. That lady on the right is making beads to sell in the gift stores at the lodges. You can see the rhino down there. Again, that's the guides from the local villagers who are out there helping to keep them safe. And the bottom right-hand picture is just a picture of guides, and they, of course, have also been employed from the local villages. The Tourism Conservation Fund, well, this fund supports entrepreneurs. So we are, again, supporting communities who live next door to South Africa's national parks and conservancies. And we help through this organization to create local enterprise, training, and employment opportunities. So there's a lovely picture. You can see that there is a micro distillery called Rhino Gin. That's one of the organizations that they support. Also, you can see the farming community on the right. That's in the little villages, and there's this concept of farm to table. And so this is where the locals can support the lodges with bringing fresh food from the farms. And the other pictures just show sort of basket weaving and some crafts that can also be sold and support the communities. Now, Africa Tikkun, this is a particularly dear to my heart organization. And I was actually an ambassador for Africa Tikkun. I took a group of people from our church to experience their work and show how they shine their light on the vulnerable children that they support. So Africa Tikkun actually helps children in the impoverished townships in South Africa by running what they call these centers of excellence. I saw them as lighthouses because they're in these deeply impoverished communities, and the children can come after school to these centers, and they are taught computer skills, dance, sport. There's also health centers for them as well. And the original patron-in-chief of Africa Tikkun was, of course, our former president, Nelson Mandela. So that says a lot. And the aim of Africa Tikkun is to empower communities and to develop new generations of productive citizens. And they called it from the cradle to career. Here is a lovely photograph of Africa Tikkun. I will blow this one up, and you can see it says the Africa Tikkun cradle to career. And there's also sports, dance, graduation. It's a truly amazing organization. And I'll just say this up front. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Travel with a Purpose, but this is an organization where fans participate in interactive. You can figure out where you come from with sports, with them, teach them, really get engaged with the community support. The Nirvana's Ubuntu Institute. Here is an organization where you can volunteer with vulnerable children in care homes. They have these care homes or orphanages. There's St. George's Home for Girls and St. Francis' Home for Boys. And these are a couple of the organizations that the Institute supports. The word Ubuntu is a lovely African word which means togetherness. And there are lots of different organizations, from the Girl Scouts to doctors across borders to sports centers to art enthusiasts, where you can actually engage with these different aspects of your vocation or your hobby. And the Nevada does a fantastic job in bridging the gap and bringing people together. And that is the interior of their round facility. And you see some drums in the front because we've done some great interactive drumming with some of the students who come from the little townships. Many of you may have heard of Utandu. Utandu, we support this organization, and what it pretty much is philanthropic day tours. There's no real interaction or engagement, rolling up your sleeves and participating in a volunteering program. But you do get to go on these tours, and you go to local schools, there's senior centers, there are community gardens, and you can also visit these different township businesses. And that's a lovely photograph. You can see the ladies, the kids, and the seniors with the carrots and the organic gardens. And again, a really truly wonderful organization to see the great volunteering and philanthropic activities that are going on, which are some of the poverty areas. For a purpose is exactly what it says. If you have a little bit of space in your suitcase, we suggest and recommend that you bring some stationery or school supplies or art supplies, and of course you can hand those out to needy students. And in this picture you can see all the kids lined up at the bottom, and they're holding their pencils and their books and their crayons and and right-hand corner you can make it a bit larger, all the supplies that will be brought. So very easy to support that organization. All right, so I'm going to move on a little bit now onto Giltedge's footprint, which we definitely consider as a light footprint in Africa. And I'm going to talk just a little bit about our suppliers that we partner with. So as a company, we offer safari experiences and tours that leave, as I said, a very light footprint on the environment. So we can create meaningful interaction, positive impact on communities, and we will work with our suppliers who have that same intent. We call it responsible and sustainable tourism. One of the first organizations some of you may have heard of is called Great Plains. And Great Plains is a South Africa-based conservation organization, and they manage several wildlife preserves in Kenya and in Botswana. And it was founded in about 206 by a group of conservationists and filmmakers, which is interesting. But they have this wonderful foundation, the Great Plains Foundation, which is all about conserving and expanding the natural habitats in Africa. So these are three of the fabulous programs that they support. One is called Rhinos Without Borders. And after having mentioned the poaching problem, this organization aims to translocate rhino from high-risk poaching areas in southern Africa. And rhinos have been successfully relocated, and a significant number of calves, more than 40, have been born in the wild. So it's truly an amazing organization. They also do traditional healing workshops to the locals, to the indigenous tribes, to help them reduce predation on free-roaming cattle, because there is a lot of predation from the wildlife, and it also helps to increase their herder income from cattle rearing, and so it reduces human-wildlife conflict. You know, when you start getting into the human activity in the villages and the animals, there can be conflict. So we're trying to lessen that conflict. And there's also something that they have done with a company called Solar Mamas, and they're actually out of India, but they have sent 9 women from a rural Okavango community to India for 5 months on intensive training to become solar technicians. So when they came back to their villages, they were able to transform their villages with clean, sustainable energy. So a skill that will bring opportunities and possibilities to everyone back home. So you can see all these sort of different organizations and how they interweave with the communities and make a big difference. Now, Kruger, which I've been to many times, some of you may be familiar with, is actually a stunning resort right on the beach, about 2 hours outside of Cape Town. And they're an amazing organization because they have a focus on the green industry. So basically, Green Futures, which is their foundation, they teach horticulture and life skills. And they provide accredited training to 12 unemployed young adults each year. These students develop skills and confidence, and at the same time they are able to contribute to the conservation and promotion of the region's unique biodiversity. And of course, they also run a commercial enterprise, a nursery, and this generates an income for the Green Futures College. So that's a lovely contribution from Grootbos, because they're beautifully located in this magnificent area, and they're able, because of their location, to put an emphasis on the green industry, as I like to call it. They've also got a couple of other organizations, Tikula, which is also about training workshops, and one that's fascinating is the Football Foundation. They run football and netball. Netball is a very South African-oriented sport for girls. I played it at school when I was growing up, and hockey, and also athletics training, and they engage approximately 2,000 youth each week. And so this uplifts the communities, it empowers the individuals through sports programs, accredited skills training, etc., and creates leadership opportunities as well through the life lessons of football and sport. So that's Grootbos. Now, Africa Bush Camp is in Botswana, Zimbabwe, and Zambia. They were founded by Bex Ndlovu, fantastic guy, and they have 15 camps around Botswana, Zambia, and Zimbabwe, and they're still growing. And they have a foundation called the ABC Foundation, Africa Bush Camps Foundation. It's all about assisting in the best environmental methods and putting those into practice in each of the 15 camps that they have, from solar-powered water holes to basic energy conservation programs. And them, like a lot of the organizations I've already touched on, they work with mitigating the human-wildlife conflict and trying to conserve resources and teach people about instilling this pride in their community. Another fabulous thing that Africa Bush Camps does, I love this program, is they connect classrooms. They call it Connecting Classroom Partners, with a classroom full of students in one of the schools that they support to another school or a class elsewhere in the world. And so their aim is to assist and encourage lasting and supporting partnerships between teachers and pupils throughout the world. And here you can share diverse backgrounds and create an awareness for the industries and the communities that they're in. I'll go back to that picture over there just to highlight this program. Now, Londolozi is a family-run safari camp in the Sabi Sands area, which is right adjacent to the Kruger National Park. And they have done such amazing things in terms of their conservation program. And it's wonderful because the actual camps and the lodges are very luxury and they're beautifully located and there's great game viewing and share through renewable energy. So they've got a solar farm. Here they can harvest power during the day to supplement electricity, which is a 30% reduction in their average monthly consumption. They also combine this solar farm with the parking of all their vehicles, which has in turn allowed for the restoration and generation of land previously used to park cars. So you can see all these creative ways of making a much lighter footprint in the bush in Africa. And these are the partners that we love to partner with because they are committed to this whole sustainable concept. They also have an electric Land Rover. So Londolozi was one of the first game reserves ever to have an electric zero-emission safari vehicle, so an electric vehicle. And that, of course, creates a much lower carbon footprint than the conventional 4x4s that you've seen. They've also got water resource management. They've got a borehole, which is used for drinking water and for the guests. And then, of course, all the grey water is then recycled throughout their two state-of-the-art German water recycling plants. So they have got a philosophy, they call it reduce, recycle, reuse, refuse, and rot. The word rot is actually compost in USA terms. But that's their the 5 R's that they talk about. So we love Londolosi. They're doing a wonderful conservation program. Royal Chundu, love Chundu in many times, luxurious lodge, actually in Zambia. And these very colorful ladies, of course, are beaders, and they make all sorts of prints that they can sell in the gift shop at Royal Chundu. So 99% of their team are Zambian, including their managers. They provide training at the lodge, and I've witnessed the training. It's fantastic, to the local communities. Their food is sourced in Zambia. They support the village gardener to a seed project where they donate seeds to anyone who wishes to grow crops for their kitchen. And then, of course, they purchase it from those people for a local market cost. And so they're all about localized training. And they also, of course, have the Royal Chundu Foundation School, which is all about women empowerment and local entrepreneurship. So I'm just putting a picture back on again because it's just such a joyful, happy picture, and it's just, lovely to know that Royal Chundu is doing such a great job at local empowerment and conservation. All right, so the Moore Community Trust, this is the Moore Family Collection. They have stunning hotels in Cape Town, in the Sabi Sands area, in the Kruger Park, and also in Madikwe, which is a malaria-free game park in South Africa. And they do a lot of fabulous things as well: education and skills development, access to water, again, solar-powered boreholes, and they also have the Chemba initiative for unemployed local women. All right, so that's a little bit about the partners and the organizations that we are happy to collaborate with because they share our whole concept of commitment to a light footprint into conservation. I'm going to just talk a little bit now about something that many of you may have heard of, but it's the frowning of animal interactions in South Africa. And by that, we are talking about, let me put on the next slide, we're talking about tactile interactions with infant wild animals, tactile interactions with predators, like walking with lions, walking with elephants, riding on the backs of elephants, or on ostriches, etc. So, the world is changing, and the voice against animal interactions is growing louder and louder. And South Africa must ensure that we stay ahead of these changes and position ourselves to safeguard our reputation and our industry. This is a picture that's not from many years ago, because a lot of these initiatives have been really implemented in the last year and a half. But the elephant back riding was very popular, and quite frankly, it's extremely cruel and very unnatural. And, the same idea applies to walking with lions, cuddling baby lions. I mean, it sounds, of course, we all have a tendency to want to do that, but you are now taking them out of their natural way of growing up, and they can't go back into the wild after they've been nurtured by humans. So, there's a lot of, ethical considerations that have gone into these initiatives. And so we need to, tell our clients, because very often they say, oh, I want to go somewhere that I can ride on an elephant back or walk with lions. And it's actually frowned upon, and in South Africa for sure, it's actually not even allowed. So an important consideration in this whole idea of sustainable travel in Africa. So just a couple more slides. I wanted to talk about Travel with a Purpose, which again is an initiative at Giltedge. And in a nutshell, it offers people 3 ways of rolling up their sleeves and actually engaging and interacting with communities and wildlife in South Africa. We've got voluntourism, which is about working with vulnerable children and communities. We have ecotourism, which is about volunteering with the animals. Some people prefer to do their philanthropy around animals as opposed to people. So there's on animal care and conservation management and anti-poaching and game reintroduction initiatives that you can actively be involved in. And then there's something called edutourism, and this is again about that bridge building, where I bring together people who have an interest, for example, in art or in medicine or different skills that they have, and I will pair them with organizations or people in Southern Africa that have similar passions. And so this bridge building is very exciting and certainly breeds a lot of great memories. So just to say again that whatever programs we offer, we make sure that our offerings are safe, sustainable, and ethical, because we want to realize Nelson Mandela's dream of paying it forward to the next generation. And now there's a term that I brought up earlier on, but it's my favorite word, and it's Ubuntu. And at Giltedge, we strive to follow the spirit of Ubuntu. It roughly interprets, I am because we are. Ubuntu speaks of our humanity and our connectedness, and it recognizes that our own well-being is deeply tied to the well-being of others. And at Nelson Mandela's memorial service, U.S. President Barack Obama said, there's a word in South Africa, Ubuntu, a word that captures Mandela's greatest gift, his recognition that we are all bound together in ways that are invisible to the eye. And this resonates very deeply today during the coronavirus pandemic. We are all in this together through collaboration and cooperation, and again, together we can make a difference. And I wanted to end the PowerPoint with some quotes from fabulous Mandela. There he is with his wonderful smile. And here are a couple of quotes. History will judge us by the difference we make in the everyday lives of children. Number 2, we cannot afford to wait for others to stand up for our environment, as nobody stands to lose more than we do. Taking responsibility. Number 3, it is our duty to be proactive in the battle to protect Africa's natural environment. The right to healthy environment is a crucial human right because it directly impacts our quality of life. And lastly, I dream of vast deserts, of our forests, of all our great wildernesses. We must never forget that is our duty to protect this environment. And so on that note, I'm going to end the presentation. I want you all at Giltedge that you are in excellent hands. Last my year World Travel Awards for Curator. Today was the World Africa. And here is the last slide. See you in Africa. We have a brochure to mail to you. You're welcome to email me. You can email at info@giltedge.com. And you can also see at the bottom of the screen our toll-free number, which is 1-877-511-6860. So that is the end of our presentation. I'm going to quickly switch off.